The Oklahoma Sooners landed an elite edge rusher in 5-star defensive end Jake Kreul.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. You can read my work covering the Oklahoma Sooners over there, as well as here on Locked On Sooners. Make sure you follow my co-host Jay at Unfair Sports and check out his work over at Unfair Sports on YouTube. But on today's show, we're going to talk Jake Krell. The Oklahoma Sooners land the ESPN 5-star defensive end out of IMG Academy, adding into the 2026 recruiting class. And here to break down what Jake Krell brings to the Oklahoma Sooners, we have Brian Smith of Locked On's The Portal Show, covering the transfer portal, all things recruiting. Brian, you're very high on Jake Krell, have been for quite a long time. So let's just start there, man. What does he bring to the Oklahoma Sooners?
This is a player with as much polish in terms of technique as you're going to find in the country, regardless of position. When we first saw Jake, as like all the recruiting analysts go to the Under Armour camps, he was at the one when he was a freshman, and he was one of the top pass rushers in Florida as a freshman in high school. Like, I don't know who trained him when he was younger, but he obviously took to his craft early. He had a bevy of moves when he wasn't even old enough to have a learner's permit to drive a car, literally. So that was a sign that we knew he was going to be somebody. It was just a matter of how big he got, because at the time he was like 205 pounds or something. But every year he's gotten a little bigger. The last time I talked to him, he was like 235 or something like that. And he has every possible move you can imagine, even one they call ghost, where he acts like he's going to do something, gets the guy to overcommit, then he'll spin off of it or do something. He has a bevy of counter moves if his initial move doesn't hit. So he just is relentless. He thinks as much as he uses his athleticism. This is one of the smartest players I've been around as a recruit, again, regardless of position, in several years. And Jake just loves it. He enjoys taking on a different kind of challenge. He's not the longest guy. He's not the biggest guy. He's got decent size, but he's not going to win you any awards for what he's going to measure at the NFL Combine. But he beats guys that have more physical traits than him because of what's between the ears. He is a thinking man's player.
And I think you've seen some of that in some of the highlights that came out of some of the summer camps. Was maybe he lost a rep early on in the one-on-ones, but came back and showed that he can beat the guy that he might have lost the rep to. Like, he shows the ability to adjust and adapt. Now, one-on-ones are a hard place to evaluate a kid, but you turn on his tape and he wins in so many different ways, Brian.
That's also important. He's not just a pass rusher. I want to knock that out real quick. Yeah, that's his best attribute, but because of his instincts and his willingness to learn, if you wanted to play Jake at just linebacker, like an outside linebacker and a 3-4 or something, he could probably do that pretty well. He's got good feet, he's smart, and he will pick up anything that you throw at him. So if he does lose a rep or if he does something wrong, he will figure it out. He's a film guy, and it's the reason that he transferred to IMG Academy. He wanted to train year round. He wanted to understand all the different skills that he could do, and that's really important because Oklahoma's defense, I'm sure, as you're well aware, Venables is going to challenge his players. They've got some pretty complex things that they'll do, and it'll fit Jake really, really well.
And I think that's one of the things that's intriguing about him, because Brent Venables asks his defensive ends to be able to hold up against the run. They can't simply be pass rushers. He does show the ability to set that edge really, really well against some big offensive tackles when he turned on his highlights.
That was one of the surprising things that I saw, because, again, like, he's 6'2.5", something like that, 235, 240. You better have really good leverage, and you better get into that player quickly. Somebody like Fasusi or somebody like that, like those kind of players, if you are off even a smidge with somebody that has more length and more size, it's not going to go well. Jake's pretty good at it. I'm not saying that he doesn't need to get bigger and stronger. He probably needs to play at 250, 252, something like that at Oklahoma as an edge guy. But he's on the cusp of that already, and he's just going into his senior year of high school. His leverage is good, and his willingness to attack in different ways to keep offensive tackles off balance. Because, again, he's not as strong as they are. But, again, smart. Between the years, he figures it out. So congrats to him.
Do you feel like he's somebody that could get up to 250, 260 without much difficulty? What do you think might be an ideal playing weight for a guy his size?
Just 250 or so. I don't think he's not like a real broad shoulder, real broad hip kid. He's not going to weigh 265 and play edge, in my opinion, without losing at least a little bit of his athleticism. Maybe he wants the power to do that, and that's something the OU strength staff's going to have to talk with Jake about. I don't know. But I think the new trend, and I know it's kind of funny, old school guys may not agree with this, but the new trend with players is just flexibility and bend. It's more than anything, especially for a pass rusher. And Jake's got pretty natural bend for a kid his size, doing yoga and flexibility drills and hip rolls and different things. Like, he's done all that. Like, he loves that stuff. You can tell by the way he can move and change direction, even gets to the ground and getting right back up. I think that he'll figure it out at 250, and teams will have to adjust to him more than the other way around. Because, again, like, his hand use is elite. He understands who he's going against. He'll know a game plan against any offensive tackle in front of him. We saw it at the Under Armour event this year. He hit over 10 in a row. He won one. He didn't lose a one-on-one rep in Miami. Literally did not lose a rep. And he's probably the best one-on-one guy that I've ever seen. And it's just, they're in basic, they're not in pads or anything, but it's because of his abundance of moves. And he counters everything. Everything is calculated. Not many offensive tackles will be able to handle that. And it carries into the run game. If you overextend or do something, he will YouTube you. He will embarrass you. There were a couple of times where guys got out over their feet and he pulled them by, and it was pretty funny. Guys that weighed 320 pounds getting yanked around by a guy that weighs 230 something. He's a really smart player, man. And against the run, he'll have to do it a little different than some other players, but he'll figure it out.
I think what's impressive is, there may not be in pads, but the way that he's winning, it's so clean that it wouldn't matter if you were in pads or not.
That's what I mean. Like, if you watch him and you think about some of the better pure pass rushers in the NFL over the last 15 years, pick whichever guy you want to go with, and especially some of the shorter ones that didn't have like the super length. That is Jake on steroids in terms of like his advancement. I don't know who's trained him. I don't know which guys he really followed in the NFL, but he has those traits where he keeps guys off balance. So he enjoys that. I'm not big enough. He has a chip on his shoulder. I don't know if you've ever spoken to him or whatever, but he has that. But off the field, he's as nice a guy as you would meet. He knows when to turn it on and off. He's very edgy on the field. Like, he's the guy that every Texas fan will hate more than anybody else. Not just because he picked Oklahoma Tech. Like, he'll be in the middle of the fracas. 100%. But off the field, he's a great dude. So I think his competitive nature is also something OU fans will enjoy.
Yeah, it sounds like he's somebody that could become a fan favorite down the road. We're going to talk about what his potential impact could be and what's next and what this means for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail, coming up with Brian Smith of The Portal here on Locked On Sooners. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. My wife and I, we've been trying to figure out ways that we can save and found that, man, we're spending a little bit too much on fast food. And with the kids active during the summer and active during the school year, that's a place where we're going to have to plan a little bit better so that we're not wasting money where we might want to save it. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. We're here on Locked On Sooners with Brian Smith of The Portal. For your second listen, make sure you go check all that out because he's got you covered on everything on the recruiting front, as well as transfer portal and the constant changes to college football. It's a constantly evolving sport. Brian's breaking it all down over there. Go subscribe to Locked On Portal on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So Brian, day one impact. This is going to be one of the more fascinating things to watch because Oklahoma will lose our Mason Thomas after the 2025 season to the NFL draft. Marvin Jones Jr. will also be leaving as well, which kind of opens the door for a big time competition at defensive end. What do you think the possibilities are of a guy like Jake Kreul making a day one impact?
Well, that'll partially depend on who they take in the portal. I'm sure they'll try to get at least one pass rusher, but so will everybody else. Secondarily, like we just talked about, playing the run for a defensive end is actually harder as a general rule. So I'm curious how much weight he comes in at. But as a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8 pass rusher, he'll be in contention to play from day one. And I think they know that. Now, they got Daniel Norman coming in, who's, I think, underrated. I know that some of the coaches and players around the SDA program are high on him. So he might be in that same boat. They may have a chance. And it's not like Oklahoma is recruited poorly on the defensive line. That is quite the opposite. But it's just going to be who comes in healthy and ready to play. Pass rushing situations, one of those guys may get a chance pretty early to be second team or something like that. My bigger question, though, can he, by the middle of the season, be a 1st and 10 guy in a rotational situation? Same with Norman. Again, I'm pretty high on him. I'm not sure. That's freshmen in the trenches on either side of the ball. 1st and 10 football is a little different. You haven't been through college weight program, et cetera, haven't got up to the size. But there's no way special teams is a lock. I mean, there was ever a guy, Jake is about as perfectly made mentally for special teams as you can get. He's not afraid of anything. So he'll definitely be on multiple teams there. And I think he'll play as a pass rusher. The question, though, again, can he be a 1st and 10 guy by the middle of the season? It's possible.
Well, I think even if he's not that guy just yet, but you can throw him out there on 3rd and long, 2nd and long situations. And I think that allows him the opportunity to kind of get his feet wet and do what he does best and do what he does really, really well. Not naturally necessarily, but something he's worked really, really hard at over the years to become what looks like an incredibly gifted pass rusher.
Yeah, 150 to 200 snaps your freshman year as an edge rusher / special teams guy is probably the projection. Like snap counts are something I didn't put a lot of stock in until recently. But the teams that win, like if you go look at Georgia's totals, those 2 years they won it, just as an example, go look at the guys that had snap counts. They have guys under 350 across the board. It's because they rotate a bunch of guys. You're not winning titles with your star defensive end having 580 snaps. Doesn't work that way. Oklahoma is no different. You need guys like Jake to come in each and every year to keep pushing the pile, and then you rotate. When Venables was at Clemson, they weren't exactly short of defensive ends. They rotated like crazy then too. This is the kind of starting point that they're now at, where they have some talent that'll be coming back next year, but they lose some. But it's just constantly evolving. Guy goes to the NFL, a guy that's a junior or senior starts, freshman or sophomore is right by, and that's how it works. Jake will be that guy. Now, I think his sophomore year would be surprising to me if he doesn't start, but as a freshman, 150 snaps conservatively, and that's pretty good amount. And in the SEC especially, that's a tough task, but he's one of those kids that can handle it.
Yeah, I think with reasonable expectations, that would be a good starting point. You know, if you're getting anything out of a true freshman, I think you're off to a great start. I mean, Jaden Jackson, he played over 300 snaps at defensive tackle for Oklahoma. And I think we're all maybe not surprised that he was able to do that. But like you talked about, playing defensive line in the SEC is a really, really tall task. And it's high. Those are high expectations. So if you can get anything out of a true freshman on the defensive line in the SEC, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. And let me use a comparison. James, a kid I got to know pretty well when he was at IMG, and he was the kid that always took the extra reps, did the extra things, didn't care about his clout. Even after he had 30 some offers, he was the same kid that he was before. Jake's been the same. Like he's got every offer too, LSU and USC and all these other programs have offered him. Same guy. Those are the kids, and this is something I'm looking at. Some of the major networks like On3, Rivals, 247, like we talk about this stuff off the air, but it's very touchy. This is the difference between kids that make it and don't. The kids that will take coaching and do it the way the coach says, regardless of talent, is the ones going to play. College coaches are the most stubborn human beings on planet Earth. They would rather lose than you do the rep the way you want instead of that. And I'm not kidding. They are anal to the umpteenth degree. Jake will figure out what Oklahoma wants him to do against certain teams, certain situations, and he'll do it right. And that's why Jaden played last year too. Now he's a horse, but his technique coming out of high school was insane. Jake is the same kind of deal. So would it shock me if he ended up being like a co-starter or something his freshman year or playing 200 plus snaps? No, it would not. He's capable of doing that. Well, again, does OU go get a transfer portal guy or something? That's stuff we have no idea. It depends on how this season goes. But if they need him to be like the second team guy by midseason next year, it would not surprise me in the least.
So what does this mean for Brent Venables in Oklahoma? They're entering a season in which everybody has high expectations for this team. They think that they're going to be able to bounce back, but this was a big, high-profile recruitment, maybe arguably the most high-profile aside from Bo Bentley. What does it mean for Brent Venables, for Miguel Chavis, the defensive ends coach, to be able to land Jake Krell, get the win over Texas Ole Miss?
I think it's important from a personality standpoint. Like, this is who we are. We're going to be D-line. I love their D-line class. It kind of finishes it out. Norman, you got the kids, like the big kid Harris inside, another Florida kid. I don't know what it is with Florida recruiting for the Sooners D-line, but
we love Florida.
It seems to be. 3 of your 4. And the kid from Arkansas is really underrated, but he's from Arkansas. So their D-line class is good. You're going to be able to sell. This is what we're going to be in the future. We finally got this thing going in the right direction. You got Bentley in the fold. You got a really good D-line class. O-line recruiting is going pretty well. The kid from Midlothian, I don't know if you pronounce that right, the big offensive line, I love that kid. Their trenches are getting a lot better. And, of course, last year, Oklahoma's O-line, I mean, they were probably looking for me to put on a helmet. They didn't have anybody healthy.
Right.
You've got to get back to that. So they should be able to do it. I think they're in a tough spot. Like, their schedule is ridiculous. I don't expect them to reach the standards that OU fans want to see this year. I'm sure a lot of them out there listening to this probably mad at me saying that, but I don't expect 10 wins if that's scheduled. If they get 9, I think they'd be doing really well. But they're going to be a lot better. And this is a thing of like, hey, the future is starting, but this is day one. Like, the reboot was last year because nobody was going to win with their injuries.
Right.
There was no way, but Oklahoma fans still held him accountable. That's part of being at a major program like Oklahoma, because fan is short for what, John?
Fanatic. Yeah.
Oklahoma fans are not rational. They want to see wins this year. They just need to let this play out. So if Venables can get them to 8 wins or more, I think the sky's the limit. They're recruiting Dallas well. They're getting kids from Florida. Just need to get a few more kids from Oklahoma. We've talked about that before. I'm still bizarre with that situation. I don't understand that. But everything else, I think they're in a pretty good spot. And for those who don't know, haven't seen him, Bo Bentley is the truth. That kid is legit. They've got the right guy for their program moving forward, too.
Yeah, they've got the makings of a really strong class. Some players that are really flying under the radar. You mentioned Matthew Nelson of Arkansas, the Jandreau brothers out there in Arizona, guys that are 3-star prospects, but have really high ceilings.
Yeah, I don't mind the way they're recruiting because Venables has always recruited to his scheme. The kid that he just lost, the middle linebacker, like a bunch of schools got in on him late when he was coming out of Florida. He was at a little podunk school in the Orlando area. Venables wanted him earlier. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things, or like the staff did before. It doesn't matter. He'll figure it out if he gets a guy that maybe not fit his system, but he's going to recruit guys like that everywhere. Their middle linebacker, their DN, their safety. It'll be the same way it was at Clemson. They just got to get the offense right now. And I think they got the right transfer. And if they did, of course, they got Arbuckle too. So it's the same system. That matters. Material should be really good. Oklahoma's going to surprise some people this year. I don't know if they're going to be 10-2 or better, but they're going to surprise some people. And I think it would be a mistake to get rid of him after this year if they don't meet expectations.
Right. Well, make sure you go follow Brian at The Portal on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow him on social media at FBScout_Florida as well, covering all things recruiting, the transfer portal, and the ever-changing landscape of the college football game that we're enduring. We were talking about it. We're just a week and a half out from week 0, Farmageddon. What's the game early in the season, Brian, that you're most excited to watch?
In some ways, it's LSU at Clemson because I have no idea what's going to happen with LSU this year. I don't buy that they're going. Like, I know one person today picked LSU to win it. Tom on the Cover 3 podcast. I'm like, to win the title? Really? After the way their defense has been the last couple of years? I don't buy that, but they're going to be better.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about them. And then Clemson, they finally took a few transfer portal guys. They got 4. So I'm curious about them too. So you got Death Valley in South Carolina, 2 Tigers going at it. I think that one will be a lot of fun. Of course, Texas playing up at the Horseshoe will be interesting with Arch and all that. But those are a couple of the games I'm really curious about.
Yeah, we got so many great early season non-conference matchups that like we're going to get off to a blazing start in college football, and the whole season is going to be awesome. And can't wait for it. Again, go check out the portal over on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast. You can also listen and subscribe to Locked On Sooners everywhere you download, listen to podcasts. But until next time, he's Brian Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you more about recruiting and everything else. Boomer Sooner.